Jazz standards are full of 2-5-1 progressions. As we learn how to improvise, focusing on those 2-5-1s first will teach us the tools we can apply to any set of changes. Today, I'm going to teach you one of my favorite ways to approach improvising over this progression. I remember being back in my high school jazz band. I was comping behind the saxophone solo, and I knew that my solo was up next. And as we got closer and closer to my solo, I became so nervous. I was so afraid of sounding lame or playing bad rhythm or the people around me judging me. And we're going to approach this by putting constraints on ourselves. I'm going to give you a very specific framework to work through, and then from there, that framework will give you the freedom to explore and change things and move on top of it. I think a great place to start is with the 2-5-1 progression because it's just so common in our jazz standards. Kind of like the 80-20 rule, right? If we can learn how to solo over the 2-5-1s, we've got a huge chunk of our standard already covered. So let's take a look at one here in the key of B flat. A 2-5-1 in the key of B flat would have the 2 chord C minor, the 5 chord F7, and then our 1 chord of B flat major. Now we're building our line off of the third of each of these chords. So C minor, our third is E flat. For F7, our third is A, and for B flat major, our third is D. The trick to making this sound authentic is to make sure that those threes in our solo line up right when the chords change in our left hand. So for C minor on beat 1, we're gonna have that E flat play right in time. When we get to the F, we're gonna have the A at the same time right there on beat 3, and then on the B flat, the D comes right in on beat 1. So I'm going to show you a trick to make this happen automatically. So for this whole line, we're just going to think the B flat major scale. We're going to start on the 3 of the 2 chord. So that's E flat over C minor. And we're going to come right down that B flat major scale. And look what happens. The A in our right hand, the third of F, hits right at the same time that the F7 chord changes. And if we continue this down, now starting on the A, continuing down the B flat major scale, it happens again. It just so happens that the scale drives us right there so that that D lands right on the B flat chord. This line that we're playing is 1 measure long and it resolves into measure 2. So it works really great over a fast 2-5. If we look here in the nearness of view, we're going to see this happen twice in the A section. So the first time is right here, this C minor chord. There's our C minor F7 to B flat major. Here's another one, G minor, C7, and then F6 in the second ending. So that is a 2-5-1 in F major. So we can do it here too. And there's our F6 in the second ending. Now check this out when we get into the B section. We've got this G minor chord that goes to C7. So again, we're doing a 2-5-1 to F major. But something funny happens when we do it at this point in the song. Right, we've now landed on the A, which is the third of our F chord, our 1 chord, but it hit on the C7 chord. So why doesn't it work in this case? Well, we're doing this over what I call a slow 2-5. So instead of the 2 getting 2 beats and then the 5 getting 2 beats, instead they both get whole measures. But our line is only 1 measure long. So to fix this and make everything line up again, there's kind of 2 options. One option is we could just slow down the right hand into quarter notes instead. And this works, but it doesn't quite swing right. The swing feel comes from those offbeats in the 8th note line, so if we play just quarter notes, the swing feel is kind of missing. As we get more advanced, we can actually make this work by filling in some of those offbeats in 8th notes with other things. For today, I'm just going to recommend that we shift the whole line over by a measure. So instead of starting it on G minor, we're going to play exactly the same line, but starting on C7 instead. So our G minor chord, remember B flat is the third, but we're going to wait to play that until the C7 chord gets here. So we got. And hear how nicely it lands there. So far we've only talked about major 2-5-1s, but we've really got to learn this over the minors as well. If you haven't had the chance to take my 7-day soloing challenge yet, I would really encourage you to. It'll take your improvisation up to the next level. I've had over 5,000 students take this course. They give us an average of 4.8 stars. It's really inspiring to see how much progress people can make in just a couple weeks with this course. This course is completely free for you forever. There's no strings attached. I just want to have you in the community. But if you haven't taken it yet, you should take it soon because I'm going to be replacing it with something totally new here in a few weeks. To do these in a minor key, we're going to use the same formula. We use the third of each of our chords, our 2, 5, 1. We come right down the scale of the 1 chord. So to do this here in G minor 6, our 2 chord is A half diminished, A minor 7 flat 5. Our 5 chord is D7 flat 9, and our 1 chord is G minor 6. So just like before, we're going to take the third of each of those chords. For A half diminished, we've got a C on top. For the D7 flat 9, we have an F sharp, and then for the G minor 6, we have a B flat. So now to connect these 3 to 3s together, instead of using the G major scale, we're going to use G harmonic minor. So now our A half diminished chord, we're going to start with that C on top. I'm going to come right down G harmonic minor. Here's our D7 chord, flat 9, but notice we get the third right there in time, and G minor 6. So back here in the nearness of you, we actually have this happen here at the end. Let's give it a shot. So this is B flat major. Here it is, our A half diminished to D7. Now we land here on G minor 7. Notice it's G minor 7, not G minor 6. And this opens up something really interesting. This G minor 7 is actually a 2 and a 2-5-1 that's going to take us back to F major. In this case, it's a slow 2-5. So we can chain these together. Over the A half diminished, we're going to start right on that A chord. When we get to the G minor, we're going to wait a measure. And now over the C7 chord, play that F major scale down, and we're back up to the top. Now these lines are pretty hip to play exactly like I just showed you, but of course you're going to want to spice them up to give them variety and personality. So let me give you a few ideas for how to dress these up and make them a little bit fancier. Let's do it rapid fire style. Instead of coming down single notes, why don't you try coming down in thirds? Or you could even come down in sixths. You could use a chromatic approach to get into the line. You could use an enclosure to start the line. You could use a chromatic from above. You could use an arpeggio from the chord before to get into it. You could also do things to dress up the ending of it. Maybe we put an arpeggio on the end. Or maybe we could do an arpeggio into an enclosure. Ooh, that sounds great. Another thing we could do would be to create these as a pivot line, which means we're going to start here. When we get down to this third on C7, we're going to jump up an octave and continue the line. We could move away a little more from this framework by changing our 5 chord to be an arpeggio instead. So when we get to C7, come up an arpeggio and then resolve it that way. Now pushing the boundaries here a little further, when we get to our 5 chord, we could switch our scale into the altered scale version. Oh, sounds so good. As often as we run into these 2-5-1 progressions, it's just as common, maybe even more common for us to run into just 2 5s without the 1 on the end. But once you've got this technique down, you can use this same thing over those situations too. Let's say we were playing a tune that had this progression, D minor 7 to G7 to B flat dominant. So we need to recognize, first of all, that the D minor 7 to G7 is a 2-5, right? It's a 2-5 in the key of C major. Now, even though we never played the C major chord, we're still in the key of C for this minute, and so we're going to use the C scale over top of it. So we have a D minor 7 chord. Our third of D minor 7 is F. We're in the key of C, so we're coming right down the C major scale. Now at this point, instead of resolving to C major, we're actually moving to B flat dominant. So we have to find a note that is going to work really nicely in B flat 7 in order to kind of land the plane nicely, right? We got to land on a chord tone. So this F actually works really well over that B flat 7. So if maybe we could delay our arrival onto that F by inserting something extra, like some extra notes or an enclosure or something, to land us on that F in rhythm over the B flat instead. Let's try it. There we go. Could we land on the D? Let's try it. That works. Could we come up to the A flat? That works. How about up to the B flat? Yeah, any of those work. These are going to be different in every situation. You got to go by the changes in your tune and notice those 2/5s and where they resolve. But this is a great place for you to start to kind of move away from the 2/5-1 and apply these same ideas to other progressions as well. I promise if you run this exercise in all 12 major and minor keys until you're totally fluent with it, you're going to really level up your soloing skills. And to keep this journey going, I want you to check out this video next where I teach you more approaches to solo lines.